of the Black Business Roundtable podcast show. We have a lineup of two of exciting firecrackers, and one you met last week, and we didn't get enough to absorb some of that. And I'm going to be brutally blunt, and I think Everett could testify to this. When you're going through a battle, your mind, if you can keep your mind intact, you can win any battle. But when your mind starts fluttering and the man, and I say the man, and the man can be black or white, gets charge of your mind, you already lost before you even entered the game. So we will humbly, graciously, kindly thank Dr. Ashley Coleman for coming back on the show today. Thank you. Second, we will have president of the International Longshoremen, Longshore, because they're women in the ILWU. So let me restate that. We are welcoming president of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, Local 10 President Trent Willis. We want to start off today by welcoming all of you to our show. This is our fourth show, one of many series. My co-pilot, man in charge, man of the hour, and the man that fought the government 6 times and won. You got me a little jealous of you. I think I was 3 or 4. So I'm a little bit jealous of you. But Everett Butler, you have encouraged me to keep doing what I'm doing, encouraging others. And others out there who are listening to you, they're encouraged, because when you say fight the government or fight these billion-dollar companies, they think it's impossible. But with God, and I give all praise to God. Thank you, Jesus, for allowing us to be here today. I give all praise to God, and I give praise God to give men and women like Dr. Coleman the strength to fight the battle and the psychology not to go crazy while fighting the battle. Once again, I say this many times. Dr. Coleman, I wish you had been around 10, 15 years ago when, excuse me, big corporation had their knee on my neck. So we want to also give our sponsor, Magnolia Engineering and Construction. They are folding out their new website today. I have seen it, and it's beautiful. It's amazing, and it exemplifies the power of the Black woman. And we have talked about that a little bit, Dr. Coleman. And one thing I was thinking about what we discussed when you said the super Black woman. I think that's what you call it, the superwoman, super Black woman. But our Black women have stepped out and stepped up and doing amazing things in this country. So we want to make sure that we highlight them every show, such that they know we got their back. And I also want to further by saying this: you men out there who continuously hold your strong sisters, mothers, girlfriends, wives back, shame on you. Wake up, brothers, and help them sisters carry us into the next generation of unslaved and strong economically, growth and economically, and developing economics in our community. Dr. Ashley, please take it away.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Thank you, Everett, for having me back. So excited. Last week's show was definitely, I really enjoyed it, and what I learned about documentation, and just wanting to just do a brief recap on what we discussed when we talked about just stress and coping. So first, recognizing that one is experiencing stress. And one of the things that I didn't get to talk about that I want to highlight is what we call in the medical field and psychological field, the stress diathesis model, which means Yes. So the stress diathesis.
I can't spell it, so
Yeah.
please tell me what it is. Then I can probably spell it.
Please forgive me. We just ended the semester. I promise I'm not going to give any quizzes. And for my students that are listening, they're taking a sigh of relief because they're like, that was on one of my final exam questions. But the stress diathesis model means that we're born with different biological or genetic strengths and vulnerabilities. That's before we experience any life events, positive, or as we say also in the psychological field, adverse or negative life events. So that means some of us, have predispositions maybe for diabetes or high blood pressure. Um,
Right.
and so that means that even though we have that vulnerability, doesn't mean that we're going to develop said condition, but it just means that there are different lifestyle maybe choices or behaviors that we can do to reduce the vulnerability, not
Right.
control for, but reduce the vulnerability. And so when we think about stress, racial stress, right? What we talked about last week is first being able to recognize when you're experiencing stress. So what does that look like, right? And when we think about Black and Brown people, often the literature shows that we experience stress in our body, headaches, stomach aches,
Mm.
the tension in our jaws, tension in our bodies. And we're carrying that and we don't even know it, right? We don't even know it. And so, first, one of the things that I introduced last week is progressive muscle relaxation. Now, this is a cognitive behavioral intervention from cognitive behavioral therapy where we guide people through recognizing when they're feeling tense, wait for it, by systematically tensing the muscles and then releasing them. Okay. So, Doug, Everett, can I use you for an example? Can
Sure
can
can.
you
I
guys
need
do
some
okay.
stress,
Can you
Yes, ma'am.
stress
Yes,
relief.
okay.
certainly. Most
And
certainly.
so if you can just sit in posture. So I would like you to have your feet stretched out before you. Okay. And we're just going to do this briefly first with some deep breaths in and exhale. Another deep breath in and exhale. And deep breath in. And on this deep breath, I want you to put your shoulders by your ears as close as you can. And exhale, drop those shoulders. And then at the count of 3, I'd like you to ball your fist up as tight as you can on 1, 2, 3. Ball those fists, hold it, and release those hands. Let those fingers just move around. And why are we doing this? Because often, who carries tension in their fists? Does anyone clench their fists? Maybe like last night with Russell Westbrook when they threw the popcorn on him. That it can be an automatic experience, right?
You don't
You're
even
right,
think about it. You don't
right.
even
Don't
think
even think
but
about
you
it.
do it. It's a
But
reaction.
we do it,
You know?
so it's just
Right. Real talk.
letting that go. And then I'd like us to just do one more where we're going to tense our legs, your calf muscles. Just hold them tight. In 3, 2, 1. And release. Okay. So it's a systematic thing again where we're allowing ourselves to tense and release to have different experiences with our body. Just checking in with both of you. What was that experience like for you?
Relax me big time. I'm
Mm.
serious. I work out. I do a lot of stretching and all that. Man, I'm gonna incorporate this into my daily routine oftentimes a day. I'm serious because I have
Mhm.
that little what you just had me do truly relaxed me. It took away tension out of my body, without a doubt.
No, happy
Okay.
to
Hey,
hear that.
hey, Everett, when the doctor's on, and I'm doing that too, let's mute our mic so she can get everybody get 100% impact of what she's saying. So I'm gonna mute mine until she gives us a thumbs up and unmute it. Go ahead, Doc.
Okay. And so that's one technique again to recognize the tension. We also talked about labeling emotions. Okay, labeling emotions, how it can be very hard to figure out what we need, how to ask our partners for support, or other people in our support system, but we don't know what we need because we're not really in touch with our feelings. So I want to introduce two acronyms that help us pause and reflect on our internal experience. And this comes from the mindfulness literature. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to introduce is HALT. Okay, HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. HALT. So I want our listeners and the two of you to think about, when is the last time that you've responded in a way that was like, oh, well, that's interesting, or gotten feedback like, oh wow, that was kind of intense. Often we can respond, right, with an intensity of an emotion, not understanding that we may be hungry, right, or how we now call hangry, right? Don't thinking, Snickers has made a lot of money off of that. Hungry, why wait, right? So hungry, are you hungry? Do you need a moment? Angry, right? And that kind of connects to what we were talking about last week, looking at the spectrum of our emotions, right? Is it irritation, anger, feeling aggravated, enraged, right? Then there's loneliness, which comes up, can be, I would say, really a silent emotion that can actually plant seeds of resentment, right? Especially thinking about this time of COVID, where people are disconnected. And so missing phone calls or not responding to text messages in a certain time frame, a lot of people are feeling lonely and are possibly feeling somewhat of insecure of where they stand in other people's lives. So I'm thinking about, is there a loneliness there? And then the favorite emotion, tired, right? So who are you when you're tired? How do you know when you're tired? Go ahead.
Doctor, let me ask you to elaborate on the tired part, because Everett knows this. One of the key tools that large corporations, that government agencies, and specifically racist people,
Mhm.
they wear you down. They want to make it to the point where you come in and you quit, you make a stupid move. And like Everett's working on what fighter jets are those again, Everett?
F-18,
Mhm.
F-111,
Well,
18.
you can't. Yeah, you cannot be tired and stressed out trying to
Mhm.
make sure an aircraft doesn't have a crack, so the pilot goes up and destroys a $500 million. So, can you target in just for a minute on the tired part about getting rest and how important it
Mhm.
is? You can't fight if you're too
Mm-mm.
tired to put your hands up.
Mm-mm.
Thank
Right.
you. Sorry to
No,
interrupt.
you're absolutely right. So we're looking at, there's feeling tired, there's fatigue, there's exhaustion, depletion, right? So first, the literature shows that driving tired is worse than driving intoxicated, right? Both are not recommended, but talking about just how out of sorts we can be when we're not resting, right? So again, labeling emotions, it's very important to, I look at wellness just overall. Mental health is just, again, how can we be whole? How can we be well? It helps with our mood regulation. It helps with hunger as well. We don't let our cell phones or our technology run down to 1% battery, where, that can cause a frenzy. Why would we do that to ourselves? And so, absolutely, making sure one is getting rest. But I think there is chronic fatigue, and there's just, again, exhaustion and needing that complete restoration. So, what does that look like? I think a lot of people will try to tell themselves, new mothers or employees, oh, I can catch up on my sleep. Professors at the end of the semester, I can catch up on my sleep. We can't. And the older we get, right, this could be very humbling. As I remember the all nighters I used to be able to do in undergrad and did in graduate school. And then it's like, trying to even grade papers or stay up for my favorite show, it's not happening. And so thinking about, we need more rest. The more we demand, not ask ourselves to perform and be excellent, we demand excellence of ourselves. And so if we do that, that much more, we need to have an established rest routine. Mhm.
I wanted to uh, point out that because we talked about this we're live now, but we
Mhm.
talked about this one of the biggest things is that the Black person, man or woman, and we talked about this one statement. I gotta throw it out there, Doc.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mr. Sharp, Shannon Sharp,
Mhm.
he gave a 4 to 5 minute excellent outline of, and I'm going to be brutally honest because that's what the show is about, Black Business Roundtable.
Mhm.
White people want to plant that seed in Black people's mind that all you people are lazy.
Mhm.
Shannon Sharp said it better than anyone I've ever heard say it.
Mhm.
How are Black people going to be lazy when we built white America for free? So how are you going to be lazy? And hey, for raggedy clothes, subhuman standard living conditions, and the bare minimum food, how are we lazy? So I had to put that out there because that's stuck in my mind.
Mhm.
And to this day, people say that all the time. Well, Black people are lazy. Well, can you just expand on that a little bit in regards to why our grandparents taught our parents and our parents taught, and we talked about this. So please
Mhm.
hit that for a couple of minutes because my daddy said, boy, you lazy. When I get up in the morning, everybody in this house has to get up. So expand on that about how the Black person, our grandparents, our parents had to work twice as hard to make sure we made that was a fallacy. That was a false. That was
I,
we've been bamboozled, run them up, led us straight.
I'll say
Explain that.
something just before the doctor. I just want to say something
Mhm.
about that, Doug. All of
Mhm.
that commentary is just Jim Crow. All of that stuff is not true, and you should never fall into that stuff. A lot of things that we hear in the society promotes and have always promoted since the beginning of time, since the time we came over here as slaves,
Mhm.
has been to make you think a certain way, to make you feel a certain way, but it's not true. It's not true
Plant
at all.
that seed. Plant that
It's,
seed
Mhm.
and
it's,
Mhm.
keep
it's,
watering it. And then
it's
okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to,
no,
but I had to hit that because I remember him saying, how the hell are we gonna be lazy and we built America for free?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, and I really enjoyed that conversation offline and want to bring that here. I'll start by addressing it as this. I want to introduce you to the first known mental illness, which is drapetomania, coined by a Dr. Samuel Cartwright during a time of racist science. And drapetomania was the desire for slaves to be free. Now, I'm starting my response by noting Dr. Cartwright's commentary, and I say this during the first class of every psychopathology class, which is the study of mental illness and diagnosis and treatment. And every time I introduce drapetomania to my students at the end of the class, they are shocked and horrified, and I make it known that Dr. Cartwright never foresaw me teaching, let alone teaching psychopathology. So we understand that this country has been built on Black brilliance and the bloodshed of innocent African bodies. And we also understand that productivity was life or death, right? So the inhumane treatment of African people who were enslaved and Black people worked in order to try to avoid the consequences of not doing enough in the fields. Um, Black people have continued to survive by overworking. Okay.
Can you say that again? I love what you
Yes,
just said.
yes,
When you
yeah,
put Black people and overworking in the same sentence, you can say that 2 or 3 more times. Thank you.
yes, yes. And again, in a capitalistic society, Black people have survived by overworking. And again, seeing work ethic on both sides of my family through different origins, whether it was in the fields on one side of the family or through real estate ownership on other sides of the family. It's been I haven't seen people not work in my family, not exceed. And you bring that in the intersection of African spirituality, or for those who are Christians, this idea of working as if you're working for God and not man. So again, working can be a core value, but here's the difference. Our grandparents sacrificed and worked and raised families. And some of the sacrifices, they provided what they could and provided well. But some of the sacrifices were that quality time. We know that for previous generations, they were raising other people's children, right, as well. And so if we look at the boomers who had connections with their parents, but maybe not that emotional closeness, but they had, they had the clothes and they had different things. They were integrating schools. A lot of the boomer parents decided to tell, I'm an older millennial, they wanted to do both, to go provide, just go beyond just providing for their children, making new experiences, but also the nurturing piece. And so what's happening for us older millennials, when we're thinking the 40 and younger, we're recognizing there's an American dream that Black people have been trying to achieve. At what cost? And for many of us, we recognize now that the cost can be mental health, physical health, the quality of our relationships, things that are irreplaceable. And so, as you know, there's a lot of talk about this, but for us millennials, we'll leave. We'll leave a job, we'll leave a relationship if we're unable to thrive. So not just surviving, we want to thrive. And so we're caught. We have one foot in because we have that older work ethic. We understand we were sent to school by parents sacrificing, saving, by any means necessary to give us a choice to go to the schools that we wanted to. I was a choice baby. I said, Mom, I wanted to go to Howard, and there were other family schools. I was being pulled to be a USC Trojan, other places. And I said, I want to go to Howard, Mom and Dad. And they made it happen. So we understand the privilege, one of the best things that ever happened to me. We understand the privilege as older millennials that our parents sacrificed, but we say we want to do things a little bit different. Right? How can we, because our parents and our grandparents were loyal to companies 30, 40 years, but where's the loyalty? Where's the reciprocity? Where's the reciprocity? And so as Doug and I were talking about, it's just really interesting in looking at, we are working, we are productive, but can we also shift and look at how well are we taking care of ourselves? Yeah. So that was part of that conversation.
And a great conversation, I might add, to have, because, all of the things that we have to endure as a people, like you said, it brings so much stress and trauma to us in our lives to this day. I mean, we had the ultimate level of stress and trauma coming over here, slaves and shipped. Brought over here dying, separating from our families. And then we get over here and separated again from our families based on the need of another people, and they're utilizing our manpower how they saw fit, with no regard to our family structure or keeping us together, abusing us, raping us, killing us, all of that stuff. And from day one, from our time over here for 400 years, the plight that we went through from that, even to now, the things that we get denied, even though we think we've come a long way, and we have come a long way. That's obvious, but there's so much more of a knee on our neck, thumb on our head, ceilings that we have to deal with in our professions, in education, and finance, and health, and everything that you can imagine. And that's day to day. Just so much that we have on our show. Every morning, we start watching the news, and it starts right away with the things that we hear about, the things that are coming out. And it's just so much weighing on us. And a lot of us don't reach out to get the needed therapy and help that we need to help us, our mental health. And we'll go to the gym, we'll work out our bodies. We know how to do that. We know how to take it. We want our bodies to get in shape. We know what to do. We know the things to follow. But what we don't know what to do is the mental health, what to do with our minds, how to heal us mentally. And we don't even know that we're hurting. That's the sad thing about it. A lot of us don't even know that we're hurting. Like the exercise you just had me do. I mean, I think I'm pretty healthy, but the little exercise you did, it relaxed me. It mentally took away stress from my body, and that was powerful. And that's something I'm going to utilize daily from now on, remembering what you gave me, just that little bit. And I said, man, that really made me feel a lot better and took away, just de-stress me a little bit. And we don't do that. We do not give that to ourselves. That's why you being on here, and I want you on here so bad, and want you to give us that because you're so powerful. I mean, you provide such a needed tool and needed therapy for all of us. You do.
Thank you.
You're muted, Doug. Doug, you muted. You trying to talk? Oh, all right.
Okay.
All right, go. You know you.
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I piggyback off of what Everett said, and one of the things that is so important, what brought national attention to Black people, especially in policing, when there was a video showing a white cop with his knee on a Black man's neck for 9 minutes and some change.
29 seconds. That's it.
I am not anti-white. I'm not anti-Black. I'm pro-human.
Anti-right. Yeah, pro-human.
I had some white colleagues say, well, you have to subdue people. You have to hold them back. They try to justify that. So I'm flipping that, and that's what I think you have done with how well you articulate the psychology. Because even though a person doesn't have their knee on your neck, you could have a knee on someone's pocketbook that will infringe upon their lifestyle, how they live. And I want to further say that when I used to work for big companies like UPS, Cisco, Clark Construction, et cetera, I used to wonder, how did these white guys have boats and houses and cars? And we have the same job. I'm working 16 hours a day thinking that I'm getting top dollar. But through every litigation, when I looked at the depositions and that the disclosure, the white person made on an average of 30 to 50% more money while working half the time.
Absolutely.
So a foot on your neck, physically, from what we saw on for the last year with that policeman on George Floyd's neck. The same thing these corporations do, and people in the government do to the Black man and the Black woman. They want you to work 16, 18, 20 hours a day and make half the money as a white person. So can you tell us, hang on a second, can you tell us what kind of strategies, because I didn't know, but I know now. And if I ever go work for somebody again, I want to make sure that I know that the playing field is level. If I'm working the same position, the same job, the same qualification as my white counterpart, then you should pay us the same. And I need to know how to mentally handle that to where I don't go in there and look like an angry Black man talking.
Before the doctor says, I just want to give you a stat. And this is directly in line. I was going to do this later, but directly in line with what you're talking about, just so you can see the power of the reality, the statistics of what you're talking about, Doug. This is a fact. And this was a couple of months ago. I read this $16 trillion loss since 2000 due to discrimination of African Americans. 16 trillion, not billion, trillion lost since 2000. And I'm going to give you a breakdown of what that 16 trillion adds up to. 13 trillion of it is lost due to discriminatory lending. 13 trillion to discriminatory lending since 2000 for Black people. 2.7 trillion in income lost because of wage disparity, what you just said. 2.7 trillion lost since 2000 because of wage disparity, what you just asked about. The other 218 billion lost due to housing discrimination. 90 billion to 113 billion in lifetime income lost from access to higher education. That's since 2000 for African Americans. That's the kind of reality that we're dealing with all through the system at all levels of, and that's just a couple of the things. Just like the lady I talked about last week that had 2 appraisals on her home for $110,000 the first time. Oh, excuse me, $125 the first time, The second time, 110, took out all of her paraphernalia out the house, had a white guy come over to her house, had a different company come, and they said it was 259,000.
Wow.
That's double the value of your home. And that's wealth. That's wealth. That's that person's ability to go out and do other things. If they would have accepted that 110, 125,000, they would have been just shorted out of their income they earned from buying that home and gaining that equity. But they were denied that because they were Black. And that's sad. And that it happens in so many different things, in so many different fields. And that's the thing that for me every day that brings about despair, and for me to fight, and me thinking about that every day. That's what I'm talking about, this mental health. That's how it ties, because you need therapy to deal with all of this stuff, to fight the fight, which I'm gonna always do, which we gonna do. Get out there, grassroots, and make it happen, and get other people on your side, white people on your side, to get them to fight and do the right thing. You know, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. And you need mental therapy. Sorry for all of that, but
no. Let's take a 3 to 5 minute break. We want to talk. I want to thank Magnolia Engineering and Construction, and I also want to go back to the foundation of this program and of the existence of the BlackUSA.news.
Yes, indeed.
BeMore.news and Donnie Glover.
Great man. Great man. Great.
I want to say, and I think all of you had an opportunity to meet Donnie Glover. He's working, and I think he's almost completed his second book. The first book, which I've sent him a T-shirt, and I'm going to I didn't send him a T-shirt, I sent him a copy of a T-shirt that said, "Unapologetically Black."
Yes, indeed.
Some of us, for the last generation, 2, 3, hundreds of years, and we can go hundreds of years back, have said we felt like we had to apologize for being African American, for being Black. I myself, when I worked for large corporations, I used to say, you know, I have to dress the part, I had to get the clean cut hair, you know, I wanted to fit in. No matter what I did, no matter how hard you try, no matter how many hours you put in, if there's racism on that job, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much time you put in, you will still be a Black person. So I say that to say this. Donnie Glover, we appreciate this platform here. We appreciate this podcast here. We appreciate having the strength to work decades to make sure that the media that we have as Black people right here, us having a real conversation, live conversation about real life things, they don't have that on prime time. They don't have that on Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, and Channel 7 at 11. So, Donnie Glover, BlackUSA.news and BeMore.news and Donnie Glover on his book. And please get it, read it, understand it, and be proud. Do not ever say, "I'm apologetically Black." And this is a good time. We have our special guest, the man among men. Hold on. I didn't even have to write this because I know the brother. I didn't even have to write yours down, Trent. Audience, we're gonna move from commercial and get back to this very important man who shut down the Pacific Coast. Now that's power. That reminds me of Malcolm X when he went on that Spike Lee movie where he walked him in front of that police station and put his hand up and did like that. That's you, Trent. That is you, brother. I went to the Juneteenth march last year. Now let me just tell you this, Trent. Or may I call you Trent President?
You may.
When I came out to the Juneteenth march last year, were you with colleagues with the clerks union and some other unions reached out from Seattle to San Diego, put together in a unity solidarity of men and women. There had to be over 15 to 20,000 people at the port last year. Trent, Local 10, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, shut down the port, Pacific Coast Port, for 8 hours. Not a container was taken off that ship. Not a man unloaded with the cranes. Trent, I don't tell you this because I don't want your head to get bigger than mine, but I was impressed, brother. I was truly impressed. And my dad was a Teamster. I was a Teamster before I became own my own business. I can't recall meeting a black president of any labor union. And I've had affiliation with the Teamster. When I ran a construction company, I was signatory to the Labor's Union, Carpenters Union, Operating Engineers Union, the Drywall Plasters Union. And let me tell you something, Trent. The unions did not look like the union that you're the president of. They look white, all white or majority white. One thing I am impressed and I'm proud to know you and say this. When you stand with white, black, Asian, Mexican, and other women and other. So, brother, and Dr. Ashley, Dr. Coleman, Ashley Coleman, and Everett Butler, can we step aside and let this man who can shut down coastline? Can we let him stand up and break it down to us, brother? Because we have from my understanding, we have quite a few listeners who are interested. Today, we are focusing on the blue collar man and woman. We're focusing on not getting a good blue collar job, but getting in the union that protects the pay, the retirement, the medical business benefits of all people. Brother, speak on it. Thank you very much. Please, everyone, mute their mics.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. That was a very great, and I thank you for that. I don't even know what to say about it. But at first, I wanted to send our solidarity and greetings to you and your guests and your audience, Dr. Ashley and Brother Butler. Greetings to you and solidarity from the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. Like Doug was saying, we are very connected with the community. And I want to start off by saying that the event that Brother Blackshear is talking about is Juneteenth of last year, where my local sent out a request to our brothers and sisters up and down the coast to join us on Juneteenth, celebrating Juneteenth by not working for 8 hours that day and focusing on all of the aspects of Juneteenth and why it's important for African Americans all over the United States. I would like to first state that we had a lot of help in doing that, and we had a lot of help from our brothers and sisters up and down the coast. When Brother Blackshear talked about me being one of the few Black presidents of a union here in the United States, I believe that's what he said. I just wanted to point out, too, that our international president is also African American. His name is William Adams, and we're very proud of that. Our union has a very rich history when it comes to social justice and standing up for the rights of all workers. But you would be interested to know that we became the ILWU in 1937. And if you can imagine how conditions were for Black people in 1937, if you're looking at the conditions of Black people right now, I mean, it was probably 5 times worse. Okay. Back then, we had a mixed membership up and down the coast, just like we do now. We have a variety of nationalities that are ILW members up and down the coast, white, Black, brown. I like to say we put it down red, yellow, black, white, and brown with the ILWU, and that's what I'm most proud of not only being a representative of this union, but also being a member. So I wanted to point that out, that was a collaborative effort of members up and down this whole coast who understand unequivocally that the way to succeed and the way to increase worker power is through unity amongst races. Okay, there is very difficult to negotiate contracts. It's very difficult to exert your position with the employers when you have divisions within. Okay. In 1938, our union took a strong position against the threat to Black lives. It was actually the first Black Lives Matter. Okay, in 1938, okay, our first annual convention, the first topic of discussion, okay, was the protection of Black lives and the protection of Black people from organizations like the KKK, and now we know of these organizations. Are called the Proud Boys. They're called the Skinheads. They're called a lot of different things. Sometimes they're even called our government. Okay, that African Americans have to protect themselves from. And this union understood that way back in the 30s. And ever since then, we've had countless. I'd be on here all night talking about what the ILWU has been involved in regards to social justice and change in this country. Unfortunately, with that said, the ILWU has had many efforts, has put forth many efforts to make change. But we still see, especially in Congress, we see the signs of things being undone. Okay, what I mean by that is we still got an anti-lynching bill on the floor that hasn't been resolved and hasn't been adjudicated. We still have a voters' rights bill. Okay, we still have a reparations bill there that is not even about reparations. It's about exploring reparations, and we can't even get that voted up.
And can I interject one thing? And
yeah.
And also 3/5, we're still considered in the Constitution of the United States as only 3/5 of a man. We aren't even human. We subhuman. I'm sorry.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Well, this is why the struggle continues. And last but not least, we still have the George Floyd Act there after everything that has happened in the past year. Okay, so what sparked us to organize the Juneteenth event last year was the murder of George Floyd. Okay, now here we are a year later. Okay, we're getting ready to celebrate Juneteenth again. Okay, in a few weeks here, we're going to be celebrating here at Local 10. We have relationships with dynamic people like Danny Glover. We have relationships with Angela Davis. Angela Davis is going to be sworn in as an honorary member of our local on June 19th. Okay, as of currently, Dr. Martin Luther King in 1967, when he was doing his tour trying to get support for the People's March. See, we need to know our history, especially as African Americans. A lot of our African American brothers and sisters don't know that Dr. Martin Luther King was planning a second march. Okay, and it was called the Poor People's March, and it was supposed to take place in 1968. Okay, as he was touring the country to get support for this march, he was trying to get the support of labor because he understood, just like Brother A. Philip Randolph, he understood the connection that has to happen between community and labor in order to get things done, because you have to have some economic power. Okay, economic power is the key. That's what the ILWU has. So when you have economic power, you can make change. Dr. Martin Luther King came here in September of 1967 to get the support from ILW Local 10 for his Poor People's March. And at that time, we made him an honorary member of our local. So he is an honorary member of our local, and we are very proud of that. And we plan to make Sister Angela Davis an honorary member of our local here in the next 3 weeks. Now, when I talk about Sister Angela Davis, we've also resurrected May Day. Okay. Now, our African American brothers and sisters have to understand that May Day is the real Labor Day, not September. Okay. May Day originated here in the United States, okay, in Chicago in 1886. Okay, and it was the fight for the 8-hour day. Since then, other countries all around the world celebrate May Day, but the United States made sure that our Labor Day was changed to September, so we weren't in line with the rest of the world, because that's very dangerous to corporate America and I guess we could say the global corporate world, for workers to unite all around the world. Because just think, if we all united all around the world, we started demanding minimum wages, and we started wanting to get more pay and better conditions, and we all stood up at the same time. The powers that be and the corporations don't want that. Okay, so there are always efforts to stop that. There are always efforts to block workers and to pass anti-worker legislation, anti-union legislation, and we have to be mindful. Okay, it's the same concept that you see these Republicans, this huge effort after Trump lost this election to suppress the Black vote. If this is not obvious to Black people that what is happening here and the emergency need to stand up against it and voice what we need to voice, I don't know what else needs to happen. Okay, I don't know what else needs to happen before our youth even stand up and let their voices be heard, because something has to change. Okay, this is just literally, I'm going to talk to you like I'm talking to you in my living room. This is literally too much for us. Literally. Okay, this is a lot to deal with. I leave my house at 4:30 in the morning every morning, sometimes 5, depending on if I oversleep. And I'm literally looking for police officers when I leave my house. I'm looking in my rearview mirror. I'm a law-abiding, hard-working citizen that pays my taxes every year because my sister does them for me. And I'm going to tell you, for me to have to be fearful for myself, my children,
Me too, Trent.
my relatives, okay, my brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, the stress is unbelievable. Okay, when you talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome, okay, that's something that needs to be dealt with within the Black community. Okay? But this is another burden on us as Black people that other races don't understand that we go through. The stress, the high blood pressure, okay, the illnesses, they all come from stress. They come from stress that you don't even realize. You're so used to it that you don't even realize it's happening to you. Okay? I know another guest you should have on your show, Doug. You should have Dr. DeGroot on your show. You know who that is?
No, but can I say something,
She's
Trent?
a powerhouse. She's
Yeah.
a powerhouse.
I say, Trent, you just chimed into the show. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ashley almost verbatim said what you just said. That's unbelievable. But maybe that's why you're the president of ILWU local. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, well, you can interrupt me, especially after that introduction. You can bust in anytime you want. This is my secretary treasurer behind me, who is also African American. Say hi to, this is brother Edward.
Hey man, don't be using no governmental name like they use.
Okay. That's brother Ed. That's brother Ed Henderson. He doesn't want me to use his government name.
Well, tell him we'll call him Ed X. Hey, Ed X.
Yeah, but I kind of lost my train of thought there because of Ed Henderson. But what I was trying to say is that Black people, we need to get it together. Okay, us as professionals need to connect, and I mean labor, the corporate world. Okay, anywhere where anything we're involved in, we need to connect it together and to start having conversations. Okay, even if you're looking at social media, you see all of these despairing, just, disappointing stories about Black people and how we're going against each other and talking about each other. Disconnected.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I got to say this. The most powerful thing that I've learned throughout my whole career is networking. That creates power. You don't have power with one person. You have power with multiple people from all different spectrums. That's how you generate power and change. Like you say, your union. Your union is powerful because you have a tremendous base of people from A to Z, and that creates power. People listen. People listen when you're part of a group. So all of us individuals, we can network with others and become more powerful in our own grassroots type of situation. That's what it's about. It's reaching out to someone, connecting with the next person, bringing it together, and become a powerful in unity. And that's how change happens. That's the only way change happens.
It's the only way change is going to happen, and it's the same formula that our labor leaders, all of our leaders before us used. And we need to be smart. Unless we use those formulas and unless we use those tactics, we are going to continue to be on the bottom of the totem pole, wondering why we can't get past certain barriers. Okay. In order to get past barriers, you have to be united as one.
Trent, let me say this. I remember 2 years ago when you were running for the president of ILWU Local 10, and we went to go get your sign, and I looked at the literature and I looked at your the person you were running against, and this is coming from my mouth. I was truly impressed that you did not sling mud at the other African American who was running. You chose the high road, and I won't say what he chose, but let me tell you something. I love how you said, I don't care what he says about me, I'm going to stay focused on the point. Brother, you got my admiration and my respect. I'm brutally blunt. The white man is busy calling us everything, including the N-word, and hoping to pit us against each other. That's one kudos I want to give to you. The second kudos is they have a multi-billion-dollar project that they're trying to build at the Port of Oakland. One thing I noticed that and concerns me the most about that project, they're talking about the Howard terminal, and they want it, my understanding, they're trying to make it a non-union terminal. Why would you want to do a non-union terminal in a union, union, local IOWU that has a higher percentage of African Americans than almost any other union in the United States? What that is not union breaking, it's Black union busting. Mr. Buster, bust out on that, please. I noticed how
for your audience, I gotta let my nickname is Buster Jr.
That's what I wanted.
Because my dad's nickname was Buster.
Bust him up too, Buster.
Right. So when I came on the waterfront, I was given that nickname by my dad's friends and and by his co-workers, which I'm very proud of. My dad was to me, that was the best man that ever set foot on this planet, and he took care of me and my sister. He made sure that we grew up with the knowledge, and my mom as well, but I'm talking about my dad right now. And they made sure that I can become a man with values and integrity, and when you talk about the Howard terminal, let me just correct you on a couple of things. The Howard there was not a proposal to make the Howard Terminal a non-union facility. There's a proposal to build a stadium for the Oakland A's where the Howard Terminal sits. Okay, and the Oakland A's are owned by John Fisher, a billionaire who is also in the business of charter schools. Okay, to make it to put it in a simple form, you got a billionaire who wants to build a playground for his friends. Okay, and he is willing to destroy people's lives to do it. Okay, now the Howard Terminal it doesn't belong to the ILWU like per se. You know, our name's not on the title or whatever. It belongs to the people of Oakland. Okay, and this billionaire wants to come in and buy that land at a very discounted price. Okay, to build his playground. There are some elected officials in Oakland who want to help him do that. Okay, the only thing is that you're going to be eliminating good paying union jobs that not only Black people in Oakland have, but white people, Chinese people, Mexican people, all different races of people. Okay, Local 10 is predominantly Black, but it's not all Black. We have plenty of white members here. We have plenty of Asian members here. We have plenty of Latin members here, and they all deserve representation. Because when it comes down to systemic racism is just part of a bigger plan, systemic oppression. Okay, systemic racism fuels systemic oppression. It's the dividing factor. It's how the powers that be come in and divide you first, and then once you're divided, then they can inflict the systemic oppression. That's why you see all of the Black and brown races being attacked. Okay, and when we get smart enough to band together, you eliminate that systemic racism. I mean, even including the white people. Yes. That's why the Black Panthers were so dangerous, because the Black Panthers came the closest to doing that. Okay, the Black Panthers had all races of people who band together under a common cause. In 2004, we started a campaign for what's called the Million Worker March on Washington, D.C. Okay, and what we did was we tried to recreate the Dr. King's March. Okay, we were very successful. I think we got the 80,000 worker turnout there. Unions and labor organizations all over the United States and world supported it. We had a celebration at the Washington Monument. I spoke at the same spot that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke to the crowd in 1963. And that was a glorious event, because what we said is we're going to organize in our own name. What that means in the name of workers. Okay, so once you eliminate the systemic racism, once you get people to understand how that hurts everyone, because everyone's a worker. Even if you're self-employed, you are a worker. Okay, if you are unemployed, you are still a worker. And workers need to unite to help each other. So workers unite to help each other means workers helping that unemployed person, workers helping that entrepreneur business. Okay, workers helping workers. Million Worker March. All hand in hand, working for the same cause, which is the betterment of humanity. Okay. Now, people who want to take advantage and want to steal and hog up all of the resources cannot allow that to happen. And that's what this is about. Okay. Racism is really on the back burner of that, but it's so prominent and it's always talked about so much that it seems like it is the major part, but it is not. Okay, systemic oppression is the major part, and I'm gonna tell you, the people who inflict systemic racism and systemic oppression, they're not the racist ones. Those are the greedy ones. All they care about is green.
Yeah. It's all
Okay,
about money.
and if they can trick poor white folks into hating everybody else, that's what that runs right up their alley. Okay, you can't do that in the ILWU. Okay, we got plenty of white folks in the ILWU that understand that we need to connect. We need to connect with them, with the black people and everybody else, so we can get the conditions and the pay, and the safety conditions and everything that we need on this job. And they figured that out in 1934.
1934. Hey, Trent, we're going to take a 2 to 3 minute break and give our sponsor and the editor and producer acknowledgement. Once again, Trent Willis, president of the ILWU, International Longshore and Warehouse Union, Local 10. One of the few brothers I know who can do the Malcolm X. How do you do it? Forward.
I think it was three fingers. And
Yeah, 2 fingers, but whatever you did, when I saw you last year, I thought of Malcolm X. We got our own Malcolm. We got a Malcolm Trent. But,
and before you sign off, I just wanted to say real quick that our union is democratic. So our members vote me in. Now, I'm not like appointed or anything like that. We're voted in by our members.
Powerful. Powerful.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going anywhere. We just want to give Donnie Glover, blackusa.news, bemore.news. Donnie Glover, author of the book called Unapologetically Black. I saw a t-shirt like that, and I'm going to order me one, and I'm going to wear it to every Ku Klux Klan skinhead meeting that I can get to. I'm unapologetically black. Donnie Glover, we thank you for having the foresight and the decades of energy to keep this show and start new shows. There's 2 new shows that are coming onto the air. One is called, I think it's Bitcoin with Kamal Hubbard. He was on 3 weeks ago. He's the San Mateo County Transit District Civil Rights Officer. He now has his own show talking about Bitcoins. The brother is a guru in regards to Bitcoins and articulating exactly what it is and how our economy is moving towards that. The second shout out I want to give to is to my new sister, Tamara Brown. Tamara Brown, she hosts a show with another sister, and it's called, and I'm sure Donnie's going to put it up on the screen, it's called Sister Biz. And let me tell you something, sister, you talking straight biz when I watch that show. Now we want to get back to our sponsor, and congratulations to Tammy Willis, president and wait a minute, Willis, hold on. Is there some kind of relationship with Willis and Willis? We'll hit that later, folks. Willis, Tammy Willis, president and CEO of Magnolia Engineering and Construction, one of the few Black woman-owned engineering companies in the nation. Let me be clear. Engineering and construction and a Black woman, according to most white men, don't even belong in the same state. But Tammy Willis, president and CEO, she's bringing a whole new twist on creating and developing a foothold in engineering and construction, not only in Oakland, Alameda County, and Northern California, but to the state and to the nation. We commend you, Tammy Willis, CEO and president of Magnolia Engineering and Construction. They just rolled out their website today, and they have a jingle. I'm trying to get that over to Donnie, so possibly at the end of the show, I heard the jingle, and let me tell you something. I was doing like this. So congratulations again, Mrs. Willis, on your success. And we will look forward to seeing you doing some great things in an industry that is traditionally white, male dominated. And she and other women like her are going to soon change that. We'd like to come back to Trent. Let me get our spectacular, and let me be clear when I say this, Dr. Coleman. Every time you speak, it's like me taking a double shot of some great cognac. I just sit back and go, "Damn, that was good." So why don't you
Straight
give us
therapy. Straight therapy.
why don't you
Straight
give
therapy.
us a 5 or 10 minute kind of relaxing moment here before we turn it back over to the president of the ILWU Local 10, the only brother that I know who can shut down a coast. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Dr. Coleman. Please, everyone mute your
Okay.
mic.
Thank you. And just piggybacking off of those comments, when we think about the arousal that happens when we are stressed or traumatized, our actions can become automatic, right? Where we may engage in or impulsive, right? Where we're doing something and then we're not really thinking about the intended outcome. And so I know at the beginning of the show, we did progressive muscle relaxation. We talked about labeling our emotions. I introduced you to halt. And now I would like to introduce you to stop. Okay. Now, stop is another mindful exercise when we think in an acronym, which means stop. S for stop. T for take a break. Take a deep breath. Really engage in one's internal experience. Is your heart racing? Are you tense? And we're staying at that T moment and engaging in deep breaths. And we're not continuing on until we're at a place where our arousal levels have been reduced. Okay. And so again, S is for stop. T is for take a breath, continuing to take a breath, continuing to take a breath, right? Because when we're too aroused, our minds, we don't have that cognitive flexibility that allows us to access problem solving. This is our executive functioning in our frontal lobe of our brains, right? So think of this is the executive. The amygdala, which is responsible for our emotion firing. When our amygdala is going, we're not thinking flexibly. We're not thinking rationally. We're thinking fight, flight, freak out, or freeze. So that T for take a breath, we're de-escalating. And then O is for observe. We're still slowing ourselves down. Okay. Still thinking through those consequences, thinking what's happening in our body. Are your shoulders by your ears? Are you tense? Are you grinding your teeth? Are your fists clenched? Are you thinking, ooh, or just, got to keep observing, observe that body, observe that breath. If you have to ground yourself, feel your glutes in the chair, feel your feet on the on the floor, just observe. And then P is proceed, right? Because it's really important. Often when we experience stress and trauma, we can be triggered and not know exactly, and not be able to connect the trigger with that nervous system response that we're having, right? So very important for us to stop so that we can make sure that there is a time elapse between trigger and action. We want to be make informed decisions, right? And this is something I do. Recently, I was an advocate for someone in a medical environment where, again, Black bodies were not being valued the way they should be, and I was being spoken to by a medical professional in a way that I thought was not dignified nor respected the autonomy of thought. And so, again, I want to introduce things that I've used as well, right? So I don't just say recommend this to people, recommend this to clients. And so I had to stop and ground myself. So that is an exercise that I definitely just wanted to offer as well.
Every time you talk, I start hitting the wrong button. So I gotta have a double shot or something. Dr. Coleman, you are a godsend to
Mm,
not
thank
only
you.
this show, to me, but I'm sure your family and others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everett, would you like to have
Really
a couple of
awesome.
minutes before we have Mr. Trent Willis light this show up, brother? Because I'm telling you,
No,
I don't
I,
even have to look at the ratings. I can see them going off the chart now. Get them, Everett.
I just wanted to convey what you said about Dr. Coleman. She's awesome. I mean, she is just awesome. I mean, just the little things we've done, these little things. I'm really into trying to figure my body out, and she got me mentally understanding my body more. And the things she just given me has just been so helpful just in this show. And that's what she did last week. Just listen.
Mhm.
So I'm appreciative of you, thankful of you.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything about you. Your HBCU. I love that.
Yes.
I piggyback off that because I thought about my career. I came out of school. I got accepted to Morehouse, where Dr. Martin Luther King went to school at, part of a dual degree engineering program in 1981. And at the time, they were killing, it was a killer on the loose, killing young black kids, 12 and under. They killed like 12 or 13 kids, and they hadn't found him yet. My mother told me, Everett, I don't want you to go there because I'm worried about you. Said, Mom, I'm 18 years old. I can take care of myself. I want to go to the school that Dr. Martin Luther King went to. And I want to go to Morehouse, you know. And my mother begged me not to go. The only other schools I'd applied to was UC Berkeley, which I got accepted there, and University of Pacific in Stockton. So she said, I will not fund you if you go there. So I didn't want to go to UC Berkeley because that's too close to Sobrante Park, too close to Oakland, my friend. So I said that was not going to be good for me. To be that close to my neighborhood was not going to be good for me. So I ended up going to UOP because that was at least an hour away in a private school. But anyway, I so much wanted to go to Morehouse and be an HBCU graduate and get a dual degree. So when I heard you say that, I just had to piggyback off that. I honor you, and it's a privilege that you did what I didn't do. You pushed off USC and you went there. I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
And Dr. Coleman and Everett and I, our code names are gladiators.
Gladiators only. Gladiators.
And Everett, I'll let you tell them, but we'll do this real quick because I want to get Mr. Trent Willis, the man who shut down the Pacific coast of the United States. But I want you to articulate how being a gladiator and fighting those billion-dollar companies and those government agencies. You fought the United States Navy. How being a gladiator, getting into that gym, if you can articulate that in a couple of minutes so that Dr. Coleman understands we not only fight with our minds, but we have to fight with our bodies. We have to hold that energy down, because let me be clear to all of you out there watching this. When you have a redneck, skinhead, Ku Klux Klan calling you a nigger, it's hard not to sock them in the face unless you keep saying, I got to get this job so I can take care of my family. So let me put that out there. Thank you for listening to The Angry Black Man. Everett, tell them what a gladiator is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A gladiator is you have to take all of your resources that are available to you, know how to pull them together and form a consortium of power. And that means starts with your brain. That's where it first starts, with your knowledge base, knowing how to play the game. And that's one thing that me growing up in the place that I grew up in taught me how to play the game. It gave me strength. I had to learn to survive.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Everett. Tell them how many white people went to the school we graduated from.
All of my life, starting from my Sobrante Park Elementary School to my Madison Junior High School to Castlemont High School, I had, and just to go to my senior year, it was 1,800 people at Castlemont. Castlemont was the only school at that time that had only 3 grades. Every other school in California had 9th through 12th. Castlemont had 10th through 12th, only 3 grades. And we had 1,800 students. All my years there, my senior year, I had 449 people in my graduating class. My senior year, 1,800, we had 1 white person, no Hispanics, no Asian, all black. All black. My junior high school, all black. My elementary school, we had 2 white kids. So all of my dealings with white people were just a couple of counselors, maybe a couple of my teachers, seeing people in a mall when my mother drove me to a mall in the cars on the freeway. But that's it. My neighborhood was all black. My schools were all black. And I grew up in what you can call a war zone in Sobrante Park, where the police came through my neighborhood 3 times a day. The police helicopter was flying around every day, hearing gunshots all the time. That's the area I grew up in from kindergarten through 12th grade. And I was able to manage, survive, learn to pool my resources, form a consortium, and learn how to get through, learn how to survive, and learn how to make it, and learn how to deal with the most gangsterous person to the smartest person to the squarest person, from A to Z. And that's what I've been able to do my whole life. I can talk to a CEO intelligently and do whatever I need to do with him, or I can talk with somebody who just got out the penitentiary and it's going to be all good. And I've always been able to do that my whole life. And that's the key, is using the fight that I had, because I'm the gladiator is, once again, I'm never going to give up. I'm never going to give in to anybody. I'm never going to back down. I don't care how big you are. You could be 6'5", 300 pounds. You come and try to do me, I'm going to be right there. I ain't going nowhere. And I've always been that way. Always. Everybody that know me. So I'm not going to let myself get run over, or my friends or anybody around me. I'm going to step up. Anybody around me, I'm going to step to the plate if I see injustice going on or wrongdoing. That's just in my makeup, but you got to know how to do it the right way. That's the key. And that comes with your knowledge. You got to know how to play the game. And I've learned how to play the game. And I know how to play the game. And that's the key in this life, is knowing how to play the game. Knowing how to fight.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Once again, gladiators only.
Gladiators only. Family strong. Okay. Family strong. Gladiators only.
We're going to turn this, and just before Mr. Trent Willis takes back over, I want to let all of you all know this is a live podcast. Nothing is rehearsed. We don't have a script. These are people who look like you and me, your mom, your dad. And this is not about black or white. This is about having a human rights show. What you hear on this podcast here, you will not hear on channel 2, 4, 6, 7, at 11. Take it away, Mr. Willis.
Thank you. You know, when I started off, I failed to thank the creators of this show, and thank you for giving me this platform. After listening to your other guests, I see that you are serious. Okay, I wanted to also reach out to your guests and let them know that that I'll be happy to work with anybody who is into constructive, success. Okay. And I reach my hand out to you, and I hope that it's reciprocal. And I look forward to working with you. Okay. Now, this is not going to be the first and last time we talk. I'm thoroughly impressed. And, you know, I talk to you all the time, brother Doug. I also want to send a shout out to my little sister, Tammy Willis. She is great, and I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of her as a woman and a Black woman, and I'm very happy to see what she's doing and the successes that she's having. I'm also proud of our family. When Doug was introducing me and he talked about my sister, he talked about powerhouses, and he's talked about both of us. You know, I just wanted her to know that I think my dad would be proud of us and my mom. And I hope that we can continue to make an impact, in particular with the Black community. Now the Bay Area, brothers and sisters, is changing. And it's part of what I was talking about earlier about this ballpark, all of these changes you see in Oakland and Berkeley and even Richmond, even Sobrante Park that you mentioned. And it's called gentrification. Okay. And for those in your audience that don't know what that is, that's when for a long period of time, the property value is driven down by violence and killings and robberies and all of these different things we see in our community, even over policing and police murders and harassment. All of that goes together in driving down property values and making property worthless. Then once that property is cheap and worthless enough, then you have rich white folks that come in and buy it up at a discount price. Okay. Now, does that sound familiar? Isn't that what I described John Fisher doing? It's the same thing. Okay?
Absolutely.
So you turn around and I don't know if you still live in Sobrante Park, brother.
I have friends and family that's there right now. My brother's there, my nephews, but me, I've got it lucky enough to live out here in Mountain House, fortunately. But I'm in Oakland and San Andrew every day. I'm there every day, but I'm not living there. But I'm through the neighborhood. My brother is still the deacon of the church, community reform church in the neighborhood. So I'm through the neighborhood all the time. But so I realize what you're saying. I think the neighborhood is like 60% Hispanic right now, and maybe like around 40% Black. When I lived there, it was 100% Black.
100% Black, and that's when it was the terror zone.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I do know, and I have some family that lived in Dag.
Oh, you definitely
I know all about it.
You definitely know that. Yeah, you definitely know that.
Over. And,
yeah.
We spent a lot of time in Dag. I have a lot of friends that used to and still live in Dag and Sobrante Park. A lot of friends that I grew up with. I noticed as a young man the neighborhood starting to change. Even Berkeley. I'm from Berkeley.
Oh, Berkeley. Nice.
Yeah, I'm from Berkeley, and the part of Berkeley where I'm from, because back in early times, I'm not sure, but probably 60s and prior, even the 70s, you had redlining going on.
Yes. So, preach.
You didn't see no Black folks above what was called Grove Street, and it's now called Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Yes.
Okay. If you was caught above Martin Luther King Boulevard, and
bad.
It was a problem.
It was a problem. Yeah, it was a problem.
You better have been a student going to Berkeley High, or you better have been going to downtown Berkeley to do some shopping and take your Black self back where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Since then, that line has seeped down past Sacramento Street. Okay. It's inching all the way down to the waterfront, and Black folks are disappearing out of Berkeley at a alarming rate.
Wow.
Okay, I'm one of the only Black families left on our block. I think there's 3 Black families left, if I'm not for sure. And when I was a kid growing up, everyone on my street was Black. Every family. We had one white family on our block.
Wow.
And the houses are astronomical prices now.
Astronomical. Especially in Berkeley.
Right. If you dreamed you bought a house in Berkeley, you better wake up and apologize.
Absolutely.
If you're on a what they call a basic job. I have a basic job. I go to work every day. Our membership fought hard for our salaries and our conditions. So that's where I lucked out, because I'm involved with a union that has fought for conditions. So I make a decent wage. Okay. All jobs are not like that.
Absolutely.
Trent, let me just say one thing. That is why it is so important that we not look at this shiny nickel that the Fisher family, the owner of the Oakland A's, is showing these, I almost want to say ignorant, I'm going to say unintelligent people. Oh, look at this fancy ballpark, and we're going to have slides and candy and Bozo the Clown. Yeah, you're getting clowned because they're going to kick you out of your own neighborhood. So don't be a clown. Be intelligent. Let me ask a question for these unions.
Let me ask a question off of what Doug asked. I wanted to ask this earlier, but you maybe bring it up, and I need to ask it because you might would know. Like just me, I'm from Oakland. Most people I talk to say the gyms and this and that. All they they don't know. They just think, oh, we want them to build this ballpark down there because we don't want the team to leave. We lost the Raiders, we lost the Warriors. People just think, wow, we just want to keep our team. But let me ask you, which I don't know. I'm glad you're on here. What is the loss? Do you even know? Have you guys looked into it? What would be the loss of jobs or housing or whatever if that stadium is built down there? I mean, what?
Hey,
wait a minute, Trent. Hey, Trent, now you see why he ride with me as my co-pilot, shotgun.
He's a ride or die.
There you go. Thank you, Everett.
No, I just want to know. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna break it down to you because you can see that I work very hard.
Yes, sir.
You can see from my messy desk and my messy office.
Yes,
okay, so we're not into just labor here.
Yes,
we're into the community. Now let's talk about this stadium. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what it means to the community and how it is detrimental to the community.
Yes, sir.
Okay? First of all, you had the Oakland A's. Dave Cavall is their representative. And John Fisher, the Fisher family, is the owner. Okay, yes, you come to town and you tell the people in Oakland that we're gonna build this big, beautiful stadium right on the waterfront where you can look at the water. We're even going to leave the cranes there, the cranes that the black folks used to work as like a museum. Okay, this is going to be a beautiful thing. Y'all ain't gonna have to pay for nothing. Okay, we gonna come here and finance this ourselves. I'm John Fisher. I got money. I'm gonna come build it myself. So the community said, not the longshoremen and labor.
Yes, sir.
The community said, "Oh, that sounds good." And then they said, "You know what else we gonna do? We're going to throw in some community benefits too. We're going to give y'all, so you're going to benefit from this because we understand that this is public land that we're using." And so
what do they call that, Trent? It's called a CBA. Can you educate the audience on what CBA means? And if a CBA is not included into the contract that the A's, the contractor, and the city sign, the CBA is not worth the toilet paper you can take in the bathroom with you. Please elaborate.
Well, I'm going to talk about how it's not worth the toilet paper you use in your bathroom, because the CBA is what it is it's a community benefits package.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's supposed to be negotiated along with the building of the stadium. Okay, this is all hogwash, and it's all a smokescreen. Okay? Come to find out that this stadium is going to cost upwards to $12 billion.
Wow.
Okay. The infrastructure required to make this stadium accessible is $400 million.
Wow.
Okay. The A's don't plan to pay for that.
Wow.
Okay. They plan for the taxpayers of Oakland to pay for that.
Wow.
Okay. They want to build a gondola from the freeway to walk over to the stadium. You got the truckers who truck in and out of the port there.
Yes, sir.
You got the railroad there. Okay.
Yes,
you remember when I forget what group was performing at I forget the name of the restaurant at Jack London Square. I forget the name of the
Yoshi's, yeah.
Was walking across those train tracks and got hit by
yes, indeed. Yes, I remember that. Yes,
so
indeed.
listen, how you gonna think a bunch of drunk fans coming out of a baseball stadium? What do you think is gonna happen there?
All bad.
What do you think is gonna happen with all that truck traffic and all of the traffic that comes from my job? Because trucks have to deliver supplies.
Absolutely.
Okay? The port is an open gateway. It is if the pandemic didn't show the city of Oakland and California how important the port is to the community. Now we're not even talking about black people right now. We're talking about
everybody
in Livermore. Okay, yeah. How you gonna get your toilet paper? How you gonna get your cars and because we offload and load everything.
Yes.
Okay? Now one of the most important things is that now we have they call them supertainer ships. Hey, these are huge container ships that carry goo gobs of cargo, up to 20,000 containers on a ship. Wow. that the companies want to bring in, and for us to load and offload cargo and goods. Okay, now those ships need a turning basin, meaning they have to be able to come in and turn around and, more up against the dock so that we can work the ships. Yes. Okay, so the stadium's going to eliminate that turning basin.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay? That's how it will kill the longshore jobs. Gotcha. Now, let me tell you what else will happen. We talked about gentrification. You know what else the Fisher family wants to build down there? They keep talking about the stadium. They're not telling you that they want to build high-priced waterfront condos.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
So you mean to tell me you're gonna have a bunch of rich folks spend I don't know how many millions on waterfront condos, and they're gonna listen to us out there blowing horns and crashing boxes and slamming okay, that's not
get rid of you. They're gonna try to get rid of you. They're gonna try to get rid of you.
No, they're not gonna try.
They are. They're gonna try. You're right, because that real estate you're talking about, people that don't know, that's not from the Bay Area like us, that's the most beautiful real estate in the world. Looking straight into San Francisco, that real estate is priceless. I mean, it just is. It just people don't, we know, but that's priceless real estate.
It's priceless real estate, and rich people want it.
Yeah, absolutely,
that is ours.
Yes, absolutely.
And the real estate is to be used for what the public wants to use it for. The public. And there was a poll done. Over 70% of the citizens of Oakland want that property to be used for industrial use. Industrial use meaning good paying union jobs.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now you talk about what'll help Black people.
Absolutely.
Union jobs.
You're right. Absolutely. 100%.
Jobs. So what they want to do is put a stadium there, and they want people to which the stadium workers are union jobs also. Okay, but those jobs are nowhere near
lower paying.
The security type jobs that I'm referring to.
Gotcha.
That we work down here now.
Let me ask you another question, just kind of off a little bit, but still the same thing. Your union, you said all through California, so it's not just the Bay Area. Do you guys, like you say, you do community service, and I really respect that. But do you guys have a pipeline or apprentice or any type of thing that help, like with underprivileged kids, or say kids in Oakland, even though they're all the way through Oakland Unified some way? Do you guys have things like that, or is that something you would like to work on? Because that's what I'm into, trying to get pipelines for underprivileged kids, for me in Oakland Unified School District where I grew up at, and like you to try to get into some good opportunities in their lives.
And let me piggyback real quick what you said, because that's part of what Magnolia Engineering and Construction will be doing. But maybe Trent and Everett could partner up to. I've already made contact with the Oakland district and have these Black kids who have less than an opportunity to get a good paying job and a college degree. So if they don't want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, they can transition into an apprenticeship program or some kind of walk you through tour at the longshore. Because I have a friend, and you know him too, Everett, Andre Cartier. He's a merchant seaman, and he makes about over $100,000 a year. But our young African-American boys and girls, they don't know about that. They want to be a cop because they know cop makes good money, because the cops who drive around the neighborhood and shoot our people up, they go home into their nice neighborhoods in Livermore and Pleasanton and Black Hawk after they cause mayhem. And I'm not saying all police, but the ones that do, we need to teach our kids their good paying blue collar jobs out there.
You have to give them opportunities. You have to show them these different pathways. You have to create pathways for kids where they have these pathways at lower level education, where they can see them for years and people work with them to guide them the right pathways. That's, would help me out a lot in my, same kind of having pathways through UC Berkeley in the 7th grade. Going there, they put me in a special program, giving me a bar ticket, catching a BART from Serenity Park to UC Berkeley on a Saturday, teaching me, and then I come back to my school and I take that in the classroom. They let me teach the fellow students in the 7th grade. Those kind of opportunities enlighten me and let me solve what I could do, or it made me feel better about myself. and it gave
And
me a lot of power.
The
And the
MESA
big-
program.
and-
I just want to say the MESA program. I was a part of it as well. Yeah.
Upper
Some of
bound,
you.
MESA,
Yeah.
and I was an APT peer teaching, and all three of those programs, tremendous programs. Yeah.
Well, and one thing you said, and I'm gonna let Mr. Trent Willis continue on, but one thing you said that is important. They gave you a BART ticket and some
Absolutely.
and the means, the social aspect of the academic training as just as critical as the academic part itself. If you come to class hungry or you had to walk 10 miles to get to class, you are behind before you even get ahead.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, look, we need your audience and you guys to understand that we are the union. You know, we're not the employer. So a lot of our work starts once the worker starts the job.
Gotcha.
Okay. But what we do is we connect with the community and organize within the community. So it doesn't matter if you're a longshoreman or not on the job you're on. Okay, you can organize and unionize on those jobs and demand better pay, better working conditions, and respect from employers. That's why there's such a drive, anti-union drive, because employers don't want to deal with unions telling them what they demand to be paid and how they demand to be treated. So what we do have is once a member gets in here, we have a say-so of who comes in and who doesn't.
Gotcha.
So, for example, we were issued industry cards, and there was so many cards given to longshoremen for family members, and then there was another so many cards available for the public. So we make sure that it's an even type Steven type deal where we reach out to the public in different neighborhoods. And the last time we hired or we had signups to become longshore worker, we reached out to those neighborhoods that were the most disadvantaged.
Nice.
Okay? And that's in San Francisco, Oakland, Richmond, across the Bay Area. And the results, you could just come to our membership and see the results. Just today, I was fortunate enough to promote 50 what we call casual workers to registration status or partial registration status. The majority of those members were Black. Okay. And what we do here is we're more into the representation of the member. Okay. Yes. Not the hiring. So once they get here, then we represent them in a way to where they can go out on the job and be treated with dignity and respect.
Gotcha.
So I'm the chief representative here.
Gotcha.
We have others.
I'd like to say this, Trent. I ran off the names of the unions that as a general contractor I was affiliated with, and I would like to commend you because the other unions, and I won't mention their names, they are not. Well, please do, because when I worked on a Highland Hospital project, all they kept sending me was white people and Hispanics. And let me tell you something. I had to tell all the unions that I was signatory to, hey, I can't tell you don't send only Blacks, but start sending me people from Oakland, and then start becoming more colorful. But Black people in these good paying unions, carpenters, operating engineers, laborers, drywall plasters, concrete, they are not hiring and they are not training journeyman people of color, whether it be man or woman. I had to put that out there.
Well, you know what, you try not to offend people. You know, you when you talk and you try your hardest to to continue to have relationships with others, but sometimes you just have to flat out tell the truth. Now, what you're talking about, Brother Blackshear, is you're talking about the building trades unions. Okay. And I'm not going to point any specific building trades union out, but the proof is in the pudding. Okay. You can take a ride from, let's say Berkeley to San Francisco, which I do every day, there's a lot of construction going on in the city of San Francisco. There's a lot of Black people in the city of San Francisco, especially when you go down to, which is getting just very gentrified too, but you still have the Third and Paloux and I'm not from San Francisco, but some of the areas that I'm aware of where Black people reside. And you mean to tell me that none of those Black people that live in San Francisco want construction jobs? Okay, because when I pass by these construction sites, I don't see any Black people. I mean, I don't see none. Because when I do see one or two, I'm like, that's a Black person that working on that high rise or whatever. So this is glaring, just like all of the other stuff is glaring that I mentioned earlier. Okay, it's glaring. How do you have a Black man get shot in the back of the head when he's running away?
Absolutely.
That doesn't happen in no other race of people. I ain't never heard of that happening before. How do you get so many Black people getting choked out and shot in the back? And this is just the proof is there. How do you have so many workers working with no Black people there? There has to be an effort.
You know what, gentlemen, and Dr. Coleman, the reason why is I used to be the chairman of the Labor and Economic Development for the NAACP from 2016 to 2018. I drove down, took pictures of construction sites in the heart of Oakland. Oakland used to be 46% African American. Now we're under 22%. But I drove and I said, what's going on? Let me drive down here and take a look. All you see working down on these and it's over $2 billion in construction in Oakland alone. All you see is white people, Hispanic people, and others. They may put a flagger out in front to throw you off. But when you go inside to see those trades, those plumbers, electricians, painters, you know what color they are? They're not Black.
And I can tell you why. I can tell you what allows that to happen. It's very simple. You have your guests look up the difference between a craft union and an industrial union. Okay. The ILWU is an industrial union. Okay. What that means in a nutshell is that when our members when our people become members of this union, the employers are responsible for training everyone. Everyone is equal. We all have the same skill set. We all can do the job, no matter which specific job it is on the waterfront. That's an industrial union. A craft union, the members are divided by craft. What that does is it allows racism, sexism, and all of the bad isms to seep into the organization and rear their ugly heads. Now, when you talk about unions, don't think that some of the unions aren't as racist as the non-union jobs. Okay?
Can I say, Trent, let me just say one thing on that. When I went through my last legal lawsuit after building Highland Hospital with the general contractor who built it, I won't mention his name, but you can Google it. The depositions and the disclosures from the unions and the general contractor, they were in, and I'm going to say all the unions, but the print is there. The unions conspire with the general contractor to put me out of business. So what you said is right on point. Brother, thank you for pulling that out. Is unions supposed to look out for all people? Your union is one of the few, if the only one that does that. Thank you.
And I can tell you a simple reason why. Because there's a difference between a bottom-up union and a top-down union.
Yes, sir.
Bottom-up union elects their union officials and their representatives, and top-down unions appoint them.
Yes, sir.
Okay? There's a big difference there. I'm not going to get on this show and act as though the ILWU has a straight, perfect history, because we don't. Okay. we've had some problems within the ILWU in the past. Not a whole lot of them, fortunately, because our Constitution and our bylaws and our guiding principles prevent us from seeping into these problems at a large scale. But there have been people within our union that have tried to change the mentality and have tried to bring that kind of crap into our union, and we've taken steps to stop it. Okay. Now I'm a member of an organization here called the African American Longshore Coalition. Okay. That coalition was started back in 1993 in response to some of those ugly heads that tried to rise up in our union and destroy it with racism. Yes. See, but the ILWU created an organization to combat that. Okay. A lot of unions don't do that. Okay. A lot of unions or I wouldn't say a lot of unions, but there are some unions out there that are top down. They appoint people. They're craft unions. The craftiness of they should call it a craft union because there's some crafty things that people do in there to deny others of opportunities. Okay. And that's what we don't do here. Okay. Here in the ILWU, a black man makes the same as a white man. Okay. A black woman makes the same as a white man. Okay. A member of the LGBTQ community makes the same as a heterosexual. Okay, there is no disparity and difference. We have members of all different communities and from many different countries here. They make the same money I make.
I love it.
A union official makes the same as a member.
I love it.
You don't have those I'll call them bait and switches where the employer is allowed to bait you with I will pay you more money. You go against your brothers and sisters. We don't do that. Okay. Some unions do that. And that's what causes the destruction within. Okay. We have principles that we go by that prevent us from even encouraging any type of racism and any type of homophobic acts it's just not done here. Okay. And that's why we're so successful, in particular here in the Bay Area, because the Bay Area is a union town and it's an activist town in itself.
Trent,
okay, so we thrive here.
Let me ask you another question, Trent. You said it's so powerful, and I just want to be clear, to make sure I'm understanding this right. Are all industrial unions like yours? Do they work with that same type of standard? Do they all work like that, bottom up type of thing?
Industrial unions do.
That's what I mean. I asked you, did all industrial unions work that way?
Well, I don't know if they quite work like us.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
yes.
We're pretty unique in the way we roll, and we had a very unique founder.
Yes,
his name was Harry Bridges, who was a white Australian.
Wow,
okay?
Nice.
Who came here in the 1920s. And started working on the docks, and what was going on then was called the shape up.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
So if you can imagine coming to work on the waterfront, and with the absence of a union hall and the things that we have to distribute jobs evenly and fairly and all of this thing, and you have a boss or a person in charge come out. And they got a big group of people and they pick and choose who they want to work.
Oh, that's a problem.
So the black people were never getting picked.
Absolutely. Never.
Okay? Matter of fact, the black people didn't even come over to San Francisco to work on the waterfront. Wow. The black people worked in Oakland. Okay. And the conditions in Oakland were very bad for black longshore workers. Okay. This is before the ILWU was formed.
Gotcha.
Harry Bridges did, and you'll see why our guiding principles are set up the way they are. He knew how important it was during the struggle to gain a union hall and to eliminate the shape up. He understood you have to have the black worker. You can't have the white worker over here in San Francisco and the black worker over here in Oakland, because the employers, which is what I talked about earlier, being focused on the green, they'll pit them against each other. There's no question
Absolutely.
So Harry Bridges went to the black churches. Okay. He went to the black longshoremen. He went to the black leaders, and he promised black people, you will have full and equal membership in the union, which we were an ILA port then. You will have full and equal membership and join together with us and fight together.
Yes.
That's how the fight was won.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
In 1937, we broke off from the ILA because we didn't really like what was going on in there, even though we are very cool with the ILA now.
Yes.
And we're partners. But I'll tell you, back then we broke off from them. And in 1937, we formed the ILWU, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. And we also, in 1938, at our first convention, adopted our 10 guiding principles and our stances against racism and homophobic and the whole nine. And we've been rolling ever since.
Wow, nice. That's impressive.
Trent and Dr. Coleman, we are working with less than 10 minutes. And let me tell you something. We could talk for another 2-3 hours.
Absolutely.
I can.
Well, I tell you what, President who shut down the Pacific Coast, I would love to have you back next week. I forgot to let the audience know that we've been extended another hour by Donnie Glover, blackusa.news, bmore.news. So, Mr. Willis, with a 2-hour show now, I just to let all our listeners know, next week our special guest is going to be Sandra Finley. She is the president and CEO of the League of Black Women, a national organization. This organization gets the best and the most qualified women and goes straight to the CEOs of these corporations and puts them in power in seats of board of directors, presidents, and CEO. She's going to be on our next week as a guest. We also want to congratulate Dr. Coleman. Donnie Glover has asked her to have her own podcast show once a week, de-stressing and teaching our people, not
much needed,
how to fight and win,
much needed,
but how to fight and win and not go crazy. Because I think, Trent, I met you when I was going through my last legal situation, and let me tell you something, brother. When I would walk away from you, because it was back in 2016, 2017, 2018, when I was fighting the big company that built the Highland Hospital. When I would go home, man, I'd be going because of the pressure, being blackballed and just being knocked out of. And then once again, like you said, having unions work with the big white companies to put the little black man out of business. That's what we're going to be focusing on the Black Business Roundtable show too. But we have less than 7 minutes, Mr.
You know, Doug. You said we got less than 7 minutes. And I'm used to representing people treated unfairly and people that are disproportionately affected by things. So I'm gonna represent the sister on here. Okay, She ain't got enough talking time since I've been on here, and I'm gonna represent her, and I'm gonna demand that she gets the majority of these last minutes.
Please, I couldn't have said it better myself. Everyone, mute their mic. Dr. Coleman, can you carry us home so that we go tonight and won't have nightmares about being chased with men with white sheets on? Thank you very much. Everyone mute their mics.
Well, thank you very much. Learned a lot about my beloved Oakland and hometown and the things that are on the horizon. Really excited to hear that there are safe spaces where labor and productivity are honored by personhood, and there aren't significant discrepancies in wages. And also, in light of what's coming up next week and talking about putting Black women in empowering them into leadership positions, I just wanted to plant a seed. Again, when we talk about stress management and when we're talking about what our needs are and overworking, there's something in psychology, it's called the superwoman schema. And that term was coined by Dr. Cheryl Woods Giscombe. Again, the superwoman schema, and she looks at the pressure that Black women put on themselves to overperform, to save others, that cape. And so if we think about, and Dr. Woods' work, Woods Giscombe's work really inspired mine as well. I'm going to expand this to also looking at Black men. Where are we putting on our capes? How are we responding to what's being asked and demanded of us? And while it's great and it's altruistic to help others, when and how do you show up for yourself? Right. So the next time you feel pulled to help another person, also before you do that, take self-inventory and looking at how have you helped yourself? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the space? And what are you sacrificing when you're helping someone else? And then how can you also, if you do help someone else, make sure you're not depleting your own resources or restore? And so again, I encourage you all to mindfully take breaths, to think about halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and to also stop, take a self-inventory, and to decompress where you can.
You got to take yourself off mute. You got to take yourself off mute.
Awesome.
Wait a minute. Dr. Coleman, once again, having you on at the end of the show is like taking a double hit of Hennessy. Thank you again.
Hey, Doug.
Sure.
Doug,
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to what was your organization again, sister?
Oh, so I'm the department chair at University of the West, Department of Psychology.
Okay.
So yes. So
right. I want to give a shout out to you and Sister
you.
Biz. I want to send a shout out to the Black women of the ILWU and Black women everywhere. I want to give a double shout out to the Black people in Georgia. Black people in Georgia. And my son out there in Georgia. Hey, good job. Hey, and that should be a shining example about how Black people need to band together and make change.
Absolutely.
Even with these people trying to hate on us with these voter suppression laws.
Absolutely. We gotta fix that. All of them bills you said, the 4 bills that's sitting there not being passed is a shame. All of them from the
and a shout out to Magnolia Construction.
Absolutely. And I want to say something about Magnolia and about women engineering. It's about less than 5%, 4.5%, 4% engineers that are Black, period. About 3.6% of them are men, and about 1.something% of that 5% is women. That's how few and far and in between a Black engineer is, and a Black female engineer in particular. It's a major accomplishment. So I'm so happy to be associated with those sisters.
Well, hey, shout out to you too, Brother Butler.
No, thank you, man. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to meet you, bro. I like your spirit and your fight. I can tell you got roots like that.
Well, this is what this show is all about. I want you guys to hear a quick jingle for the Magnolia website. Listen up. Magnolia Engineering and Construction will take care of all of your needs. I like it. I want to let everyone know we were totally off script today. I had someone working with 2 hours. I didn't know 2 hours can go so fast. But Trent, it's like you said, sitting around with you guys is like I'm sitting at the house, just talking to family and friends. We have to teach our people to do this, share and trade ideas for success. United, we will conquer. Divided, we will fall.
Absolutely. Network.
I have one thing to say to all of you. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Absolutely. And looking at this stage of performance here, Dr. Coleman, we hope to see you back next week because I know you're grading papers, closing out your year as chairman of psychology for the University of the West, and you are a Pepperdine University graduate with all the credentials. Mr. Willis, I humbly ask you to come back next week, and we're going to have a Blue Collar Union Labor Corner. Somebody who can teach our brothers and sisters that we need to unite, unionize, and strengthen. And not just strengthen the white part of the union, but strengthen all parts of the union. That is so, everything you said today, specifically as it relates to the Fisher family and that ballpark, the Fisher family keeps shining this shiny coin in front of everybody, but actually it's a wooden nickel.
But real quick, Doug, quick before you wrap it up, I purposely didn't mention some of these city and elected officials, okay, on here that I couldn't mention. I hope that you're watching, because when I'm on here next week, I'm gonna start spouting off your names if you don't vote against that stadium and going against your people. Okay?
Let them have it. Let them have it.
Wait, have it.
If you
I want to say
down,
something for the last 10 seconds. I just want to say happy birthday to my brother today, Paul Butler. He's 77 today. Happy birthday, bro.
Happy birthday, Paul.
I love you. He's a great man. Y'all don't know him, but he's a great man. Happy birthday, bro.
Happy birthday.
Yes,
well,
sir.
let me tell you this to all of you who are stay tuning on this this channel and this podcast show. This is where you get the facts. This is where you get the black facts. And until you start getting the black facts, you are lost sheep in the wilderness. God bless. Stay strong. Everett, my co-pilot, brother, I love you. And once again, I look at you knowing, how many people can you say you've known almost 45 years? 45 years.
That long. Real talk.
All of our guests, I want us all to say at the same time, Donnie Glover, we thank you for your commitment to showing
Glover, we thank you for your commitment. And from the ILW Local 10, much love and solidarity. I will look forward to next week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Willis Trent, my brother Everett, and Dr. Coleman. Until you start your show, we hope you come back, and we want you to come back even after you start your show, because
please do that. Please do that. Please do that.
I have to tell you, from Everett Butler and I, we have talked about you like we dating you.
Absolutely.
We said to ourselves, where was this system when the white racist people had their knee on the back of our neck?
Absolutely.
God bless you all, and have a wonderful 3-day holiday weekend.
All right. Thank you.
The Black Business Roundtable. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Awesome, you guys. Awesome.
Great show.
Awesome, guys. Great show.